being cautious, which is always a good thing. You can get these little spin-ups with this type of a signature. So right along the M57, M52 corridor here, Brady Center, Racy, Fenchmore, moving towards Chesaning, coming out of Hoover's Corners, and Rush. That is where there is a little kind of oscillating areas of rotation. We'll showcase that here right now. And so this is our debris tracker. Now, what we would be looking for if we saw debris spinning around or other types of any kind of contaminants in the atmosphere is more of a greenish or a reddish or a bluish type color. We're not seeing any of that really mixed in here, so that is good news. Looking at the velocity product, this is the wind speed and direction. Not, again, seeing anything here that's leading me to believe that we have a destructive, strong tornado on the ground. This threat is for weak little spin-ups at best. It is cautious, but we still want you to take cover here in northern Shiawassee County and in Saginaw County, especially around that Chesaning, Rush area. Just north of Owasso into probably the St. Charles area, back across M57 closer to Fenmore and 40. So like this could be a little area that's got like a slight little notch with it, something to monitor right around that Racy area that's going to be sliding across portions of Fenmore Road off towards the north and east, a little bit towards Brant, towards St. Charles. Stuff to keep in mind here. So lowest level of your home, preferably basement. If you do not have a basement, then you want to be in anywhere interior, away from doors and windows, a closet, an interior bathroom. That would be where it is safest for sure at this current point. So right now we are seeing that there is just a tiny little bit of spin here. Trying to find any other areas further off towards the south around Owasso or Bennington, Vernon, not really seeing that, so that's good news. And we'll get you the updated information on this warning here in just a moment. It's just kind of cycling between different modes of the radar currently. So tornado warning in effect. This is officially through 12:30. We'll see how this gets adjusted, if it gets canceled earlier, if we're going to see any sort of changes in exactly where it's for. But it's landing there across most of Saginaw County and again northwestern Shiawassee County for the next 25 minutes or so is when the warning is. And this area right here, and I can kind of draw a little bit around that, that's kind of where we're seeing a little bit of that spin as you have kind of an intake of air into this area and it's kind of spinning a little bit right there. So not anything, again, that is super indicative of a major tornado on the ground at this point. It's just a little bit of spin that certainly has the potential to produce a quick spin-up tornado. If we zoom on out and give you a look at the entire area, honestly, not a super ton of things really happening. We've seen the showers and thunderstorms kind of fade a little bit. Showcase a little bit more of a wide-scale view here. Giving you a little look here. Let me get rid of our low pressure and fronts. And this is the whole look over the course of the last 5 hours or so. As you can see, that whole area does have a little bit of spin to it. And we have these little pockets of some sunshine developing that destabilizes the atmosphere a little bit. And then just the overall view of the spin in the atmosphere, that little rotation allows for that tightening within these individual showers and thunderstorms. And most often they interact with little boundaries. And that's probably what we're seeing with this here is you have whatever was left over from wind boundaries from previous showers that kind of gets left, and then this guy runs into it and it creates that little bit of spin. Think of it kind of like a top running into a wall that your toddler's tossing around in the family room, and it hits that wall and it changes direction and it can increase the spin. It can sometimes do more harm than good. It just kind of depends. Everything's lining up perfectly. So that is our only warning across the area at this time. And again, this is something that's just a potential little brief spin up. So we'll keep a close eye on it, but not seeing anything necessarily trend worse at all. And radar, for full transparency, we have radar sites in Grand Rapids. We have radar sites in portions of Detroit. So we're kind of in between these two radars, scanning up at about, it looks like 3,000 to 4,000 feet aloft. So that means that this radar is not looking at what's happening on the ground. So when we're sampling this area of potential rotation, we are looking a few thousand feet aloft. And that is something that, of course, may or may not translate to the ground. Now, we do have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. We have some instability in the atmosphere. There is a little bit of spin overall, just kind of how things are looking from the overall three-dimensional atmospheric setup. So we do have to keep an eye for this type of setup to cause these little spin-ups. But for the most part, again, this is precautionary. But still, you don't want to be out and about. You want to be inside. You want to be away from doors and windows. Interior of your home, if you have a basement, head down to the basement where we have our northern Shiawassee and certainly southern Saginaw County folks right now between like Rush and Chesaning. So still not really seeing anything with this latest scan here at 1210. So that is good news as far as trying to pick up on any sort of debris. And I'm looking at a couple different radars on my couple computers that I have here outside of this as well, and also not picking up on anything that's super alarming. The rotation that's being picked up, and we can go over to our velocity product here, is just very broad. We'll zoom on in here, and you can see around Chapin where we have this change of color from the reds into a little bit more of the much lighter kind of grays into the greens. Like this general area is where there's a little bit of the broad spin, but we're not seeing that tight couplet. And what a couplet is where you have the greens and the reds pretty much right next to each other. And that showcases winds going in alternative directions. So if you have winds close to each other going north and the other area right next to it is going south, well, you got some pretty tight rotation. We're not seeing that. We're seeing generally much lighter winds going into this storm and coming out of this storm. So that is good news at this point. So this is just something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on and watch. There is not much in the way of any severe weather risk across our area either. We do not have an enhanced risk. This is just considered to be for general thunderstorm risk. You got to go out across Chicago to portions of the middle of the country to start seeing anything a little bit more appreciable for thunderstorms. We're not even expecting much in the way of lightning today, let alone damaging winds or hail. We just look back here on the radar. It's very heavy. Some maybe gusty winds between Chapin, Rush, Hoover's Corners here, Carland, but not seeing anything from a classic supercell, a classic tighter rotation type standard. You got a little bit of flow probably pushing in to this area here, and you got a little bit of this spin on the backside. So that's generally the circumstance at this point. It's around Allen Road, Judville Road, Henderson Road, in Rush, moving through Seymour Road, Easton Road. One of the things to keep in mind whenever looking at radar is sampled and put together over the course of a few minutes. So by the time it reaches your phone, what's actually being shown on radar has generally moved away. So if it's moving at 60 miles per hour and it's a few minutes behind, well, guess what? Just like a car, it's going to be moving down that road by a few miles. So something to keep in mind whenever you're tracking thunderstorms or anything on radar. So you can see that movement there. Let's go back over to last little bit here. This is the track on it. It's moving off towards generally the north-northeast towards St. Charles. And you can see that it really hasn't changed too much in its overall shape. It's continued to have some of that more robust area with some heavy downpours. This whole area is a moderate shower for sure. But not seeing anything, again, good news as far as a tight area of rotation or anything like that. Continuing to kind of scan into storm view there. Again, good news, not seeing anything that's necessarily like lighting up the screen. So we'll continue to look at these different scans here and just kind of keep you informed as we go towards the next little bit. I would not be shocked if the National Weather Service let this expire early, if they actually proactively canceled it. But at this point, good news, not seeing any sort of a strengthening signature at all. And we look at the velocity product, and we do see this little bit of spin in Chapin. And this is maybe a little bit more organized. Right along M57, Fenmore, eastern portion of Fenmore, northeastern portion of Chapin, right into Brady Center right now. So what am I talking about when we look at this? I am talking right into this area here. We talked about that red and green next to each other. This is not right on top of each other. So this isn't, again, a dead giveaway of some strong tornado, but this is a signature that certainly shows some broad rotation, at least aloft. This is being sampled at about 3,000 to 4,000 feet aloft in the atmosphere. This could translate more into the ground, but it doesn't always. You might be seeing a little bit of a lowering, maybe a wall cloud potentially. Sure, there could be a quick little funnel, a quick little spin up. Something to keep an eye on as this interacts with a little bit of a boundary. So this is going to slide off towards portions of Hemlock Road along 57 and 52 towards Brant and Groveton, the western side of Chesaning potentially. So this is moving through portions of Saginaw County. So as of right now, anywhere into northern Shiawassee, you are in the clear. So that's good news. So this is the area that we are currently watching. Again, just kind of highlighting this for you and switching between the different radars. It's kind of right into this area here. So it's going to be sliding out of that Hemlock Road area towards M52 along the 57 corridor into western Chesaning. Kind of watching right in through this area for any kind of like notches, any anomalies within the radar as this slides off towards the north, north, and east. So this will go along 52. This will go in towards the Groveton area along Brant Road, Ring Road there, towards St. Charles. That is the overall track. The Brant Groveton area towards St. Charles is what we're watching for. And if that is fully accurate there, St. Charles would be within the next 15 minutes, which certainly makes sense. Can give you a little bit of a broader look as we kind of take this scan out a bit more. Yep, Brant certainly within the next 5 to 10 minutes, St. Charles, and then Swan Creek eventually if it continues on this north-northeast type of trajectory. But still, the tornado warning out across portions of Saginaw County still in effect. The last update was at 12:10 from the National Weather Service. It was located near Henderson, 9 miles southwest of Chesaning, moving at about 20 miles per hour or so. So this definitely isn't a fast-moving storm, but still saying that this could potentially cause a tornado with flying debris being dangerous. So definitely want to shelter inside. Anybody with mobile homes, you want to get out to your sheltered place. You always want to have your severe weather plan in mind and be able to have an alternative location to be able to go to. Obviously, if you're well away from this area, don't be traveling into it if you can help it at this point. You want to avoid portions of southwestern Saginaw County. There's no hail with this. There is no really lightning at all with this. There are certainly some wind gusts where we're seeing a little bit of that slightly tighter rotation, but most likely it's pretty isolated on where any of those stronger winds are going to be crossing over that M57 corridor, moving off towards the north-northeast. So as of right now, this is still set to expire here in just a little bit. We will be keeping a close eye on it and make sure that it does indeed. And if it doesn't expire, we'll stick with you here. And these type of storms sometimes what we call skip. And that means that they will recycle and get their act together and pulse up a little bit, and then they'll back on off again and kind of do it all over again. So what we might see is kind of the end to the initial threat and then send you back to programming. And apologies for interrupting. But we definitely want to supply you with the accurate weather information here and make sure that you guys are safe and informed as this cruises through portions of southwestern Saginaw County at this current juncture. We'll keep a close eye on if this is going to be headed more towards Saginaw at this point, after it might get into the St. Charles area. But Hemlock and Shields, Freeland, Western Saginaw would be potential areas to watch out for as we go in the next 30-40 minutes. If this continues on the track, this is going to avoid, most likely, unless we have a big turn of directions, Birch Run, Frankenmuth, Reese, Vassar, Indiantown, anywhere into that vicinity east of Saginaw at this current point. So this is something that we're going to just be carefully watching. Let's look at our other scans here to try to see if we see anything anomalous. What we're looking for is where that little rotation is. If we're starting to see areas of more of a green, a bluish type color type to develop. I'm not really seeing any of that. I'm just kind of seeing that magenta, purple, reddish type color. So we're not seeing any kind of where you have like 3 or 4, 5, 6 pixels of a different color or more really develop in the area where there's rotation. Certainly good news. From the velocity standpoint, you can see there's nothing that greatly stands out. When we look at velocity for a potential tornado situation, the overall, like, oh my gosh, there's something potentially happening here, is when you have a big bright red next to a big bright green, and it certainly sticks out. So you would have on your screen more of the very bright greens or the blues where you see like the inbound, and then the outbound would be more of those brighter reds into maybe even that brownish kind of a pinkish color. That's where it gets a lot more extreme. We're not seeing anything there. It's pretty uniform for the most part. What we're seeing is just these slight little differences between shades of red, essentially. There's a little bit of light green in there, not anything super bright. You're seeing a little bit of the lighter grayish colors kind of come in and wrap around into the red. Again, this signals weak rotation aloft. Now you can get spin-ups with this type of setup. It's not always impressive on radar. We are scanning thousands of feet aloft in the atmosphere. The radar sites are closer to Detroit, closer to Grand Rapids. So not anything right near Saginaw that we're able to get a good look on. Maybe a little bit of a stronger gust aloft there around Fortney and Lakefield. But again, for the most part, this is a pretty uniform, just a little bit of like a stretched back half of this shower. So it's a caution type situation. It's a better safe than sorry type of situation. It's not a, oh my gosh, there is a tornado on the ground or anything like that at this point. Looking at local storm reports, we have that turned on. We have lightning turned on. There are no storm reports of any kind of damage at this point. And then this is just the information for the general storm track there. Continuing to move off towards the northeast. So that just kind of reiterates that we do have that nice little flow into the storm. It's a good shower, if you will. And we have seen, not just here in Michigan, we've certainly seen what looks like just heavy showers on radar produce little spin-up tornadoes. So that's kind of the scoop right now with what we're watching. So at this point, just kind of waiting for the National Weather Service to see if they're going to extend this or move this at all, adjust the timing on it, cancel it. We are getting down to the time originally when they were going to expire this. It looks like at 12:30 now is where this is remaining in effect for. But again, we are looking at just essentially into southwestern Saginaw County where this main area of spin is. Not seeing anything right now in far northern Shiawassee, so that's definitely good news. We switch back to your main typical reflectivity that you're used to seeing as far as our storm-ready Doppler radar, giving you a look at this storm or heavy shower as a whole. And again, not seeing anything that resembles a supercell type thunderstorm, not even seeing any lightning with it, not seeing any kind of storm reports with this as it slides off towards the north-northeast. Give you kind of just that overall look of what we're seeing here. Sorry about that. There we go. So for those of you just joining, we do have a tornado warning in effect still for Saginaw County, but we're not seeing any kind of a dead giveaway. This is what we're looking at radar-wise right now. It's just some showers moving across most of our area, but the one guy getting a little bit more robust across portions of our central viewing area right now, and that's what's created a little bit of that spinning action, as you can see over the course of the last couple of hours. Not a fast-moving storm. It hasn't made it super far, but you could definitely see that it's got some chaotic motion in it, and it's moving around. It's got a little bit of spin. So that's something that we keep a close eye on, that we definitely want to be able to pass on information-wise to you guys. That is something that we're watching. And why are we seeing this little bit of spin here? Well, look at where this frontal boundary is. We got a front right across the area, so there's a change of wind speed and wind direction into this general area as well. So not only do you get the little boundary from the storms that kind of pop on off, but you also get that area of just overall atmospheric help by this change of wind direction and speed a little bit across that boundary. So between the lowest levels of the atmosphere at, let's say, the ground, where the wind is moving fairly light for the most part out of generally the west-southwest. If you go up to like 5,000 feet, that wind's coming a little bit more out of the west-northwest. If you go up several thousand feet, it's kind of similar. So you get a little bit of spin. You also got a change in the amount of speed from the ground to the lowest few thousand feet. You got a little instability in the atmosphere at this time too. So those are the reasons why we keep a close little eye on these little notches, if you will, within the storm. So if we zoom on in here, you can kind of see that you got that rotating type format aloft, where you get a little push of some air on the back side, and then you get the air coming in here, and it just, again, allows for a little bit of spin. It's not a perfect environment to form tornadoes here today at all, but when you have enough things that kind of go right, you at least have that threat. Does it mean that there has been a tornado? No. Does it mean that there has not been a tornado? It could have been a very brief, weak spin up potentially with this type of setup. Just things that we have to be cautious on, as we want you to be better safe than sorry. So this is currently pushing out of the rush area along M52 into the Oakley area. This is a heavy downpour regardless. It's not super fast moving, so it's a bit of a gully washer for sure, even though we're not seeing the lightning and thunder aspect of it. And again, this is moving up towards Chesaning, and eventually, if it continues, St. Charles, as far as the area of rotation goes. Now, in St. Charles, currently you're getting into the moderate rain. This will continue to track more towards Jonesfield and Saginaw and Bay City as far as the rain goes, and the area of rotation is just a pretty small little part of it. And we're still not seeing anything from a debris tracking standpoint. This is the area that we're watching, and again, not seeing any kind of big obvious threat that there's anything swirling around there. And looking at our overall velocity, I mean, it's really, it's not showcasing much to me as far as even really a weak area of rotation. It's just a little bit of messy, what you would typically see with showers. There's a little bit here on the very, very back side. I really don't see it, to be honest. You got some gusty winds across portions of, this has now changed. I mean, this is definitely a little bit different here. We were talking about this strengthening a little bit, and right around Grabowski Road, towards the Lakefield area along Hemlock Road, this is kind of where things have maybe like reformed, and this would be now more of where that threat is. So this has kind of moved into a different area of the storm, and we were talking about that potentially happening. So guess what happened? The National Weather Service has canceled the first tornado warning, but we're not done. We do have this new revised tornado warning that is now in effect for northwestern Saginaw County. So again, being cautious. This is about 8 miles west of St. Charles. Thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Not anything that's been seen. No guarantee that storm's going to be moving around into the Merrill area here at about next few minutes or so by 12:35. So we'll have to keep an eye on Nelson, Hemlock, Shields. So this is now northwestern areas of Saginaw County. Resetting things here. So we're kind of taking our look away from Brady Center to Chesaning. We're moving it further off towards the north and east, and we're looking into the Lakefield and Hemlock area, west of St. Charles, west of Swan Creek, west of the M52 corridor. This is now moving towards M46, and we're seeing just a little bit of, it might be spin, it might just be more of a concentrated area of wind, such as a downburst or maybe even a microburst, but definitely picking up on just a slight change in the wind pattern side of things. Now I'm going to move this further into Lakefield. Not seeing any sort of a interesting signature here when it comes to our CC, our correlation coefficient. That is how much different particles in the atmosphere are correlating together, so how similar they are to each other. So a piece of debris is going to be very unsimilar to a raindrop. A piece of hail is not going to be similar to a raindrop. What we're scanning for is generally raindrops, so we're seeing a very uniform type color for the most part. This is the overall velocity look, and yeah, not seeing anything back towards Gisanning anyway, which is good. Some stronger winds around Lakefield into the Roosevelt area in towards Orr. There's that tornado warning. It's given the under hail of 0.75 inches. I'm not really seeing too much of a hail signature at this point. So what are we watching for? Well, this area right here, it had a little brief spike of some stronger winds between Lakefield and Roosevelt. It's going to be moving up towards the Orr and Hemlock area. Right now, there's not much of a difference. Again, these storms don't have a lot of support for a tornado. Doesn't mean they have no support, so you have to have a lot of things come together to get a decent signature at all. And we're seeing only very minor signatures last for like a few minutes and then kind of fade away. But again, from a cautious perspective, want to be able to just pay attention, stay on this, and we'll keep you here for just the next little bit or so. So this is going to be sliding generally north-northeast between Lakefield, Roosevelt, up through Jonesfield, Hemlock, maybe into the Thomas area, maybe into the Ive area. We'll keep an eye on that. It should stay west of M52, west of 58, but it will be moving closer and closer to the 46 corridor here in the next little bit. So if there was any sort of potential tornado area on the ground here, which I do not think there is at this point, but there could be like a very brief type of a touchdown if everything comes together. There might even not be a wall cloud or a funnel cloud with any of this, though. Would not be shocked either way. We've seen certainly different outlying scenarios, but better safe than sorry. So if you're around the Hemlock Road area between Grabowski Road, north of Town Line Road, I want you to be in the lowest level of your home, around Swan Creek Road, Hemlock Road there. Again, Lakefield, Roosevelt, Swan Creek Road, moving towards Hemlock in the 46 corridor. That is where, again, for tornado precautions, just in general, whether it's this storm, whether it's a storm you get 3 years from now, lowest level of your home or business, interior, away from doors and windows. If you're in a mobile home, you want to seek shelter in the recommended shelter area, tornado shelter, not staying in the mobile home, leaving to go to the local shelter. Anywhere where there is your severe weather precautions. But for right now, again, this is just more of a we're being cautious type situation. So we'll stick with us, stick with you guys. Just got a new scan in. Let's diagnose. So, I mean, I'm seeing a little injection here. I'm seeing a little spin here, but this is broad. But yes, seeing that spin around Lakefield, western area of Roosevelt, moving into the western area of Orr. What we look for as far as a more pronounced signature is going to be reds and greens closer together, and we just got another update here. This starts to be a little bit more of a signature, and that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing a kind of pulse, weaken, strengthen again. So we are seeing a signature that showcases some level of rotation. Starts to increase the threat a little bit more. Swan Creek Road, Hemlock Road, now Pleasant Valley Drive, into the city of Hemlock, into eastern Jonesfield, along the M46 corridor. This is where the threat is. This is where you need to currently undertake your tornado precautions. this will continue to move generally off towards the north-northeast. Let's look at it for the last 45 minutes on loop, and you can see that overall movement. It's generally got a pretty northerly look to it, sliding maybe just a tiny bit off towards the east. But what we're seeing is these couple little areas one there, of pixels that look a little bit more potent. Now, this is several thousand feet aloft in the atmosphere. This might be 40, 50 mile per hour type winds that are at least being radar indicated that could be potentially swirling around a bit. But unfortunately, we're in a radar hole. We're far away from the Gaylord radar. We're getting pretty far away from the Detroit radar around the Pontiac and Clarkston area. We're pretty far away from Grand Rapids radar. So we're not able to get a great look in on this storm. So we're just unfortunately having to go off of what we're seeing with the tools that we do have available. And this is a threat. I mean, you're definitely seeing some stronger wind potential here, standing out a little bit. Further off towards the south, Chesaning, it looks like we have another little threat here as well. So let's talk about both dual threats, because we do have some rotation here around the Oakley area currently. So that is a tornado warning in effect right now for that south central Saginaw County. So these are separate areas that are continuing to pulse, weaken, strengthen, go back and forth here, as we've got ourselves a little bit of a surprise afternoon potential for tornadic activity. Certainly not a guarantee, but things that we need to keep a close eye on. This is moving just at about 15 miles per hour from the Oakley area into Chesaning right now, along M52, M57. This is the original storm that we broke into coverage for at noon. So watch that type of system here as it moves towards Lathrop around 1250 or so, and potentially Corners and also Burt. So that warning is going to be running here until 1:15 at this point. So let's zoom on in, give you some street names. This is the rotation. It's, again, not super strong, not super tight, but it is an area of rotation. These certainly in the Great Lakes, Midwest, Ohio Valley can spawn weak spin-up tornadoes with these type of signatures. That's why the National Weather Service puts these warnings out, even when they don't look like slam dunks and they're not being recorded by storm spotters or fire departments or any kind of local public. This is based off of estimates with the radar of conditions possible to produce a tornado. So you're seeing that little bit of darker color kind of fade away. You go into the brighter reds and some brighter greens here. And are they right next to each other in Oakley? No, but they're close. They're definitely close together. So this is the little bit of a signature that we have to watch. Again, this is just for situational awareness here. If you're in Flint, you're fine right now. If you're in Lapeer or Fenton, you're fine. If you're Owasso South, you're fine. We are watching for these on the back side of these little heavy showers, these brighter red colors here for a little bit of interaction along a boundary. And that is where we can see potential for enough spin and rotation if things come together. And maybe there is enough in the atmosphere today for things to come together for brief spin-up tornadoes with this shower. There's a lot of rotation with this overall system. Let's showcase the last 4 hours. You see how you got the area of low pressure visible, how it's spinning around and allowing for that just continued area of spin and some general rotation. So that's one of the big things that we want to keep an eye out for. It's going to be important as we watch over the next little bit to see if this is something that's just going to sustain itself for as long as it's going to be rotating across our coverage area here through the northeast, as it slides generally north-northeast. So I mean, it's definitely a little bit of an unexpected situation, not gonna lie. We didn't have potential tornadoes in the forecast, but based off of the overall setup, there's enough spin, there's enough instability where that can definitely occur when you have everything coming together the right way. Trying to get the storms to pop up here just to give you a little situational awareness. Let's see, there we go. There's our 2 tornado warnings that are in effect. So again, viewing area as a whole, we're in the clear for the most part. There's not a lot going on. You want to zoom on in, and then these are the 2 tornado warnings that we currently have. So this is affecting 2 different spots within kind of the same large shower of far southern into far southeastern Saginaw County and then northwestern Saginaw County. Currently, the city of Saginaw, Midland, Bay City, Frankenmuth, Birch Run, you're good. You're in the clear, but we're watching for this to continue to move off towards the north-northeast, and we'll have to keep a close eye on it. Going back in, yeah, from a radar signature side of things, I mean, you're definitely seeing a little bit more of that heavy rain downpour. You're seeing these little notches here where the green kind of juts on in. I mean, that's kind of where some of the axis of air and motion can get pushed on in and rotate things a bit. You're seeing a similar type of a signature a little bit into this area here as well. So what we're watching for is kind of where you have that intersection that creates the area of spin. So that's kind of what we're watching here a little bit, and then yeah, it's kind of like the back side of the shower right there. And we do have a little bit of a signature on this back side. Let's go back to the CC here. Yeah, I mean, it's muddled. It's not a perfect look, but something to definitely keep an eye out for. This kind of right here through Chesaning at this point. Again, it might not be the best data, and the radar is scanning it between about 3,500 to over 4,000 feet aloft in the atmosphere. So this certainly is not data from the ground. So we're not living 4,000 feet aloft. So what is up there does not always translate all the way to the ground. So totally understand there's going to be what we call like a degradation of data, where it's not as accurate as ground truth of what's really happening. But something to kind of just keep in mind here is that we're getting more in the way of a decent signature here of the spin, the rotation. Can't confirm if this is realistically debris, but it's just more of something to kind of keep a close eye on. So again, we kind of want to go into close street by street storm tracking view, where we have this area of rotation here currently crossing over Corunna Road, Main Street, the 57 corridor, right through Chesaning at this point. This is continuing to slide off towards kind of that northeast area, towards Groveton towards Luce, probably a little bit on the western side of Maple Grove. So something to keep a close eye on. This is something that's cycling. It's going to spin up at times. It's going to weaken. And the window in between for it to produce a tornado is likely pretty brief. Typically, if tornadoes are produced with this type of setup, they're pretty weak, but that still means you need to take your tornado precautions of going to the lowest level of your home, business, interior, away from doors and windows, closet, bathroom, preferably a basement. Under the stairs is a great spot in the basement away from those outside walls. So again, we are in caution mode. We're watching for different signatures. They bubble up at times. We're calling out the local cities. We're trying to prepare you with any kind of the safety advice. Another thing to just kind of keep in mind, just in general from a severe weather tornado precaution, it doesn't mean this storm, but having a bike helmet is always a good idea in your tornado safe space. That protects from any kind of flying debris that could hit your head. Something like a mattress to be able to put over you. Those are just good ideas to be able to have. So we're tracking two different potential areas of rotation aloft in the atmosphere that could spawn, at the very least, a brief spin up that we need to keep a close eye on from a safety standpoint. Again, the one is towards Chesaning, moving towards that Burt area off of just a little bit north of New Lothrop. It'll be off towards the east of St. Charles. And then the other area here around Hemlock, sliding in towards like Dice and Thomas. Now, again, we see these brief little signatures that get a little bit more interesting, and then it kind of goes back to I'm not really seeing anything too much here within the noise. If anything, I mean, it's very weak, very broad rotation, but it's also being sampled very far aloft. So this would be kind of that Hemlock Thomas area to the north, and it's just moving at 15 to 20 miles per hour. It's going to be pushing, generally speaking, along that M47 corridor. So we'll just kind of watch for the overall trajectory to be similar to this in the next little bit. So moving towards like Mapleton, LaPorte, Tittabawassee. Something to keep an eye on, something to watch. Taking this out again and showcasing the wind velocity. We are looking at the wind speeds and wind directions within these heavy showers. No lightning and thunder actually really being showcased here. Out of Brady Center now, out of Oakley, out of Chapin, out of Rush, Shiawassee. So you're in the clear. Chesaning now coming into the clear. St. Charles now into the clear. Hemlock you will be soon. So this system is sliding generally northward with a little bit of an easterly jog. Yes, you're seeing rain in Saginaw, Frankenmuth, Birch Run. It's pretty light stuff. Yes, you're seeing some moderate rain a little bit further off towards the west, but there's only really a couple pockets of heavier rain with this around Thomas into the Dice area, and then further to the south around Groveton in towards Chesaning to Maple Grove. I'll be in the next little bit. Those are kind of the areas where we're seeing the heavier rain, where we're also seeing better storm dynamics to actually form some rotation. For instance, look at how this green area nudges on in to Fergus Road and Luce and Groveton, and then you have that area of more intense rain on the backside. That is a documentation in radar language, looking at this Doppler radar product of some spin. So certainly the storms are moving around a little bit, and we are seeing this area of mid-level spin. It's just all about, is it actually translating to the ground or not? And those are hit and miss type situations. I'm going to loop this for the next little, let's loop it from the last 2 hours here, so you can get an eye on that overall look and how it's not just straight moving north to east. If you look at the actual inner showers and you look at the different colors, how they're not staying just kind of in their one spot. They're shifting, they're rotating around a little bit, they're kind of shimmying, and that's where you have these little boundaries and the wind interaction that can create that spin. I'm going to look at a couple different dynamics here in the atmosphere to see if I can get a little better sampling of what that spin would really be like right now. Please hold, I'll get you that information. I just want to make sure that we have our best tools on how things are translating to the ground, because this is being scanned by radar from Detroit and Grand Rapids at like 4,000 feet aloft. So yeah, definitely I am seeing that there is enough of a change of wind speed and direction, and I'm seeing that there's enough of a overall amount of instability and lift all the way down to the ground, to where yes, this is definitely a situation where I think the National Weather Service is super smart on putting this out, because you need some level of confidence that the lower levels of the atmosphere where you can't see are capable of producing a spinning column of air to the ground, known as a funnel cloud tornado, once it touches the ground. So we are certainly seeing that there in the atmosphere is enough of that dynamic. So this can definitely translate. So again, kind of giving you a little bit more of a look at the specific storms. The Thomas, Dice, Hemlock area, moving off towards the north-northeast towards LaPorte and Tittabawassee. It'll slide along 47 and continue probably towards Auburn. We'll see if it eventually makes it towards Bay City or if it stays further to the west. Right now, just kind of watching for a little bit of spin here. And then our other storm further off towards the south, sliding along portions of Lincoln Road right now, and right along M57, and again, kind of moving off towards the north-northeast. I'll be pushing right through Albee, around West Fernie Road, the M13 corridor in the next little bit as well. So it looks a little bit more congested, and the radar looks not anything super concerning, which is great news. It looks more uniform and just kind of what we would call like a junky storm mode, where you're not seeing anything. But this is just kind of what it's all about, is these storms just know how to pulsate and kind of transfer their energy a little bit. So you might lose an area of rotation here, let's say closer towards the northwestern corridor of Maple Grove, and you might start getting a new one here where you have fresh air to flow into and what we call boundary interaction. So you got this little guy that's popping up here. You got more of a intense heavy shower around North Lothrop. So then around Chesaning, you could potentially start to see a little bit more of kind of renewed rotation on this southern side. A little bit of the meteorology, scientific, fluid dynamic science class for you. But still need to watch this area. I think it's good that the National Weather Service is keeping these warnings out, not canceling them prematurely. So again, just kind of recap, this is portions of extreme northern Shiawassee County, far southern Saginaw County. This is going to stretch for the next 17 minutes or so. We'll keep an eye on that. I would certainly see that it could be trimmed off across Shiawassee County in the next little bit. But the way that we've been seeing this is this threat is riding along a boundary, a stationary boundary in the atmosphere, and that's kind of helping to keep these guys going. Let's take a look at the future cast. I'm going to take this kind of nice and slow. So we are going through portions of the next couple hours, and you can see that we have the movement here towards the north, north, and east. Now there's going to be enough of the heating of the day to form off some more showers and thunderstorms. And these guys are going to continue to kind of cycle around, and they are going to potentially create some rotation as well. And some of the models are doing a little bit of a better job capturing that. So it's something that's not just maybe a localized threat here now. We might have to watch this east of Saginaw and Flint, east of 75, into the thumb as we go throughout the late afternoon into the early evening hours. And then, I mean, there's even the potential for a couple more thunderstorms or at least heavy showers that could have some spin around the Flint area. But as that frontal boundary continues to lift away from the area, hopefully, our hope is that we lose some of that more localized spin, and these are just garden variety showers, and they're not going to really produce much as we go into the evening. And you can see as we go through the evening hours, we're going to go from more widespread to scattered to very isolated activity. And then into the overnight, we should dry out. I'm expecting enough in the way of moisture in the atmosphere that's probably going to form a pretty good amount of fog. And then that fog will break apart, burn off. We'll have mostly cloudy skies tomorrow morning, and that'll give way to some sunshine, a very isolated chance of a shower or thunderstorm as we go throughout tomorrow. Tomorrow night, different story. We do have chances for rounds of showers and thunderstorms. Models are not doing a good job handling this, so certainly good scattered chances, but there's the threat for this to be more organized, more strong to severe by sometime later Wednesday evening into the overnight hours, and then in towards Thursday morning, probably going to lose that chance, and then again Thursday night and Friday morning we have another chance. So certainly plenty of chances for sure. As always, a good idea to stay weather aware with our Storm Ready Weather Mid-Michigan Now app, where you can get the latest weather information 24/7. Get that on Google Play and the App Store. Just wanted to reset things here. We'll go back to our full scope of exactly what's happening, and we'll dive on into these individual storms. So Brian Ivy here with you. Thank you very much for joining here. We've been on for just about an hour doing live storm ready alert coverage on a couple of feisty thunderstorms without the thunder, just like heavy showers that have spin that can form a little rotation. And that is because we have this stationary boundary that is set up across our area right now, and that allows for a subtle change of wind speed and wind direction as a boundary. And storms, heavy showers, love to create a little spin where there's good boundary interaction. And that's kind of what we're seeing as we have these scattered showers move on through. So these are the two warnings that we currently have. We continue to really lighten the size of that in just the far northern corner there of Saginaw County. These are both tornado warnings in effect. Our guy across portions of far northwestern Saginaw County there is moving at about 30 miles per hour now out of the north, close to the Freeland area. And that is currently going to be running until the next 15 minutes. We'll keep an eye on that. Our guy further to the south, extreme northeastern Shiawassee County. For the most part, that threat is moving on through southeastern Saginaw County, and that also runs here for the next 15 minutes or so. So our goal is that we do not see a bunch of signs for any kind of rotation in the next little bit. And we can send you along to regular programming. But we will sit here for a little bit longer and continue to watch, because what's super important is just because right now we're not really seeing any sort of more notable signature, is that we've seen that cycle over and over again. And what that means is that we see these areas of rotation that look like they're starting to get a little decent, and then they don't look like any rotation at all. And then it looks like, okay, very broad, very weak, but I can kind of see it a little bit, and then it starts to get a little interesting again. And these cycling type of storms don't always produce a wall cloud, a funnel cloud, a tornado, because we're scanning several thousand feet aloft in the atmosphere. But the environment is there where they certainly could. And you definitely want to pay close attention, because that can change on a dime. It can go from not really looking like it to causing a quick little spin up in the matter of a minute or two. And obviously, if it lands on your barn, on your house, on your property, on a road where family and friends are traveling, that matters. So these are affecting very small portions of our coverage area as a whole for right now. But obviously, wherever you are, it matters. So we're starting to see these little popcorn, very light, brief sprinkles that are developing in a few spots across the area. But again, that main area that we are watching is just kind of on these back halves of our more organized areas of rain here, starting to move closer to the I-75 corridor. Not too terribly far away from Saginaw, just a little bit to the west. You can see Vanna Township here, a little bit to the west. That's where we're starting to see some of that heavier rain. And again, these guys might dance around. It might not be the same spot that ends up producing a little area of rotation, and then that shows up in the same area again. It might be something where it kind of moves around into another portion of that shower. So Maple Grove area, Albee, Montrose, Tamath area, that is where we're seeing what used to be a little bit of spin. Not really seeing that now. And then closer towards Dice to Tittabawassee along the 47 corridor, north of Midland Road right now. But it is south of Route 10. That threat would be generally east of Ingersoll, east of LaPorte. And I mean, I think this is going to continue to just kind of move more north than anything else, but a little bit of a north-northeast type of a jog to it. Looking at that correlation coefficient again, which is where we can potentially track any kind of debris, and I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, that's nothing organized. I mean, that just kind of looks again like typical type signature. Certainly nothing being shown there, but again, just for worth mentioning, we are scanning at about 4,000 feet aloft in the atmosphere with our Doppler radars between Grand Rapids and Detroit. Nowhere near any kind of close radar where we can get a look lower level in the atmosphere at any of this. But really not seeing any kind of signatures right now at all. Maple Grove, the loose Albee area is what we're watching. Again, not seeing anything there. Some gusty winds around Dice to right along that 47 corridor. I'm not seeing any kind of true rotation where we're getting anything to push around here. So I think we're going to be able to wrap this up here within the next minute or so. So just kind of to recap, we broke into coverage here at about noon for a thunderstorm that wasn't even really producing any lightning. It still isn't. Yep, I got lightning turned on, not seeing any lightning with this at all. And we had that system that was cruising out of portions of Shiawassee and Saginaw County. Now it's moving throughout portions of generally further east into Saginaw County. It's a slow mover. It's only about 20 miles per hour. So you got a few areas of some gusty winds, but I'm not seeing the rotation with it at all. So just again, kind of cycling back and forth here a little bit between different modes. Montrose area, Saginaw area, you're getting in on some heavy rain. This is going to continue to push off towards the north-northeast. We have to stay alert for potentially any isolated spin-ups. We're going to be able to come back on coverage here if needed. But for right now, we are going to just watch for these continued moderate heavy showers. There's going to be more showers and thunderstorms that pop up this afternoon. There is not a high severe threat, but because we have a little rotation in the atmosphere, something to keep an eye out for more of these isolated potential spin-up tornadoes. We'll keep you updated on the latest as we have our Mid-Michigan Now news coming up here at 6 p.m. Of course, any updates online and on the app. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be right back here if needed this afternoon. Take care.
This has been a Mid-Michigan Now Storm Ready Weather Alert.